Welcome to ETL on Patrol, the 10-minute patrol devotional. This quick devotional is designed to strengthen you in the Lord as you carry out the duties He's called you to. So whether you're patrolling the streets at home or abroad, we hope this encourages you. And if you've been blessed by this podcast and would like to connect with our community, we'd love to hear from you. We offer free retreats, discipleship, online studies, and other resources for those who've been called into a life of service. Today's devotional will be in 2 Samuel chapter 11. The story records the tragic tale of David and Bathsheba, and in this text we see that David covets another man's wife, at best commits adultery with her, at worst rapes her, and then attempts to cover up the affair and ultimately plans and executes the murder of one of his most trusted soldiers, Bathsheba's husband, Uriah. This chapter traces a snowballing of sin, but notice where it begins. David was where he should not have been. 2 Samuel chapter 11 verse 1 says, "In the spring, at the time when kings go off to war, David sent Joab out with the king's men and the whole Israelite army. They destroyed the Ammonites and besieged Rabbah, but David remained in Jerusalem." During this time of history, wars were typically not fought in the cold and rainy winter months, but rather campaigns would resume in the spring. But instead of leading his men into battle, David stayed behind and sent his general Joab. D.A. Carson notes that perhaps David stayed back because he had grown complacent, having experienced victory wherever he went. John Trapp observes, while Joab is busy laying siege to Rabbah, Satan is laying siege to David and far sooner prevails. Well, here's the bottom line. God had given David the throne and the responsibility to lead his people, which included leading them into battle. But David was disobedient, complacent, and not where he should have been. And what did it lead to? Temptation, which led to sin, which led to death. The story continues with David walking onto his roof, seeing a beautiful woman bathing, ultimately acting on the temptation. One chapter later, God confronts David through the prophet Nathan in 2 Samuel 12, 7 through 12. And it says, "Then Nathan said to David, 'You are the man. This is what the Lord, the God of Israel says. I anointed you king over Israel, and I delivered you from the hand of Saul. I gave you your master's house to you and your wives into your arms. I gave you all Israel and Judah, and if this had been too little, I would have given you even more. Why did you despise the word of the Lord by doing what is evil in his eyes? You struck down Uriah the Hittite with a sword and took his wife to be your own. You killed him with the sword of the Ammonites. Now, therefore, the sword will never depart from your house, because you despised me and took the wife of Uriah the Hittite to be your own.'" The consequences of David's sin echoed throughout his life. And it's easy to ask, what if David had simply obeyed God? And what if he had not been on the balcony that day? What if he had been where he was supposed to be, leading his men into battle? So here's the application. What is your balcony? Where in your life have you grown complacent or distracted from what God has called you to? Maybe God has called you to the war of loving your family and discipling your children, but your balcony is your career. You sacrifice your family pursuing promotion, the next case, the next search and seizure warrant. Or maybe God has called you to pursue excellence at work, to take a leadership position, but your balcony is comfort. You sit back, you seek to do the minimum, you seek to avoid responsibility. Or maybe it's training, right? You focus so heavily on your training and your own self-development that anything else cannot get in your way. I find myself, for me, that oftentimes my balcony is social media, which is kind of embarrassing to even admit. And I'm not engaging in anything inappropriate, but scrolling mindlessly steals time. It's time that I could spend with God, reading my Bible, praying, mentoring others, checking in on others, serving others, loving my family. But no, I'm looking at things that are essentially a waste of my time. 1 Peter 2:11 urges us to abstain from sinful desires which wage war against our soul. Colossians 3:5-10, in summary, tells us to put to death our earthly nature, sexual immorality, impurity, lust, evil desires, greed, idolatry, to rid ourselves of these things. See, freedom and obedience come at a cost. Our King died on the cross so that we could live. And following him often requires that we lay down things that distract us from his calling on our lives. Maybe this means putting aside the alcohol, turning away unhealthy habits, stewarding your finances wisely, or simply saying no to the things that consume your time and attention in an unworthy manner, like scrolling on social media. So the question again is, what is your balcony? What are the areas in your life where you've grown complacent, distracted, or comfortable, and it's keeping you from fully engaging in the work God has called you to? Can you imagine for a moment where you could be if you weren't standing on your balcony day in and day out? And this isn't about you and how incredible and amazing you could be. This is about where could you be if you were following God's plan for your life. So take a step today. Identify that balcony, confess it to God, and make a plan to move back into the battle he's called you to. Whether it's seeking his face early in the morning, pursuing excellence at work, discipling somebody, or serving your church community. Remember, the same God who guided David, corrected him, and gave him mercy is the same God who walks with you today. He strengthens you, equips you, and offers grace when we fall. Press into him, focus your eyes on Christ, and take your place in the work he's called you to do. Jesus, we come before you in this moment and we ask, Father, forgive us for our complacency. You gave your life so that I could have mine. And forgive me for how often I waste it, for how often I miss opportunities to serve you, to honor you. Reveal the areas in our lives where we're standing on the balcony, wasting precious moments. Lord, help us, give us the grace and the mercy to confess, to step off and to step back into what you've called us to. Because the balcony is nothing but a lie, a temptation, a desire for comfort that is false and fades. And Lord, only you offer true life. So Lord, rescue us from the complacency of the balcony and lead us into your everlasting life, into the abundant life that you came to give. We thank you for your word, for your sacrifice, for your love. Amen. We hope you enjoyed today's devotional. If you did, it would mean so much if you would leave a 5-star review on wherever you listen to podcasts. And if you have any suggestions, thoughts, questions, please reach out to us in the email provided in the show notes below. God bless. Be safe.